Hi, I'm Sabina Hanau, and I run From Scratch, which is a boutique communications consultancy for purpose-driven businesses. Today, I'm talking to Dorit Noble, who's part of the From Scratch network of experts. Hi, Dorit.
I
Changing the way a company communicates can be quite a big change program, so I'm delighted to have Dorit on board, as she's a real expert on change management. So before I ramble on any further, Dorit, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm an award-winning trainer. I'm also a certified individual and team coach. And the work that I do is supporting teams in organizations who are going through a transition phase.
Thank you. So one thing that I've been thinking about quite a lot recently is the new legislation coming into force on the 25th of May, the
Yeah.
GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. And quite a lot of businesses I've talked to are a bit worried about that, especially their marketing teams. I think very worried about their marketing no longer working the way it used to. And legal teams suggesting ways of doing things that go against what they think is going to be useful in their work.
Right.
And I've been thinking a lot about how this is actually quite a change program. How would you approach that kind of thing?
So you're talking about getting legal and marketing together. Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes,
Somehow getting them to work on this together, because it's a challenge that's facing them both, right?
yes, exactly, yeah.
So I think the first place I'd go to is to look at the company mission statement and what the company is facing in terms of, what are the challenges of the organization right now to do with this. And that's the place where the legal and marketing departments are aligned, right? They both want what's best for the organization.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's about working with them, bringing them together so that they can, first of all, become aware of how they're each dealing with the challenges, and then get an overview of how they can work together on the challenges. That tends to shift how either teams or departments work, is when they actually see the bigger picture of what's going on rather than just looking at what's going on for them. Yeah, so that's what I would do.
Wow. So do you have any more information about how you would achieve that? Any specific kinds of workshops or tools that you might suggest?
So the coaching that I do is systems coaching, and it's quite interactive. It has lots of kind of tools that we use, very experiential. The exercises that pop to mind at the moment would be contracting between them, so that there's an agreement about how they actually work together, and that makes a huge difference, first of all. But there's another exercise that works extremely well, which is like lands work. It's like looking at them as different kingdoms and building an appreciation between them of how things work for each other, for the one and the other. And then how do they bring the best of both kingdoms to move this forward for the company in the best way possible. So that's kind of what jumps to mind here. And
Wow, that sounds.
there are other things as well, but that's as much.
Yeah. I think it sounds interesting, especially because it's a bit more focused on the personalities and the emotions at stake, and not just it uses language also that I think reaches us at a different level when you talk about the kingdoms of marketing and legal. And I think having been part of projects which involved marketing teams, or having been on the marketing side myself, it sometimes can feel like that. So I think that metaphor is quite true to life.
Yeah.
How long does it take for teams to see the kinds of benefits that you've outlined?
Do you mean in terms of getting something completed, like delivering on something?
Yeah, seeing a change in how teams work together. And if we think about the GDPR right now, how long would it take for them, for example, to feel like they're both working together rather than against each other? What's your experience?
Well, I would say that definitely, so usually I run it, let's say, as a day's workshop. They'd have a morning session and afternoon session. And that would be enough to shift and bring them into alignment. That can fail if teams are in incredible competition with each other and have no incentive to collaborate. But with legal and marketing, I see that they're already aligned in the sense that they are not in competition with each other. and they're both wanting to make this happen in a way that is most successful for the company. So I would imagine that within that day, there would be very substantial, I'm looking for the word, very substantial changes that would happen in terms of pointing them in the same direction. In terms of getting the actual delivery happening, you know, the kind of more the logistical part of it, that, you know, that gets designed. That's part of the action and accountability piece that we do at the end in the afternoon.
Okay.
Did I
What
answer
do
the
you mean when
question
you
there?
say yes?
Okay.
Because you said that gets designed. What does that entail when you say that gets designed?
Well, the thing, so as a coach, one of the most important things is that we don't just have these fantastic conversations where people surface a lot of new information. That is part of the coaching. But what's really important is that whatever the agenda is gets driven forward. And so the last part of every coaching session is to bring some kind of action plan into fruition and to set a timeline and then take steps in between that. You know, if they're saying, okay, we need to deliver this within 2 months, then kind of creating the milestones at each point and ownership and, you know, a little bit of the project management part.
Wow. So it sounds like the work really only starts with the workshop and it continues afterwards. And there's quite a lot of changed behaviors, changed ways of thinking, tools and so on that stays with people even after you've left them. Or are you still involved at that stage when they've got that action piece and the different timelines that they're working towards? Or
well, usually they don't hold, you know, I don't hold them accountable. When I'm with an individual client, obviously there can be an accountability piece where I, you know, get told what's happened, by when, all of that. But no, this is something really that they will then take on themselves. And I think the reason it's so transformational rather than incremental, the change, is because you are going deeper, you are going to that emotional level. And I think that's where it leaves a resonance that lasts, you know, just keeps going and will also have a ripple effect on other projects that they run that they need to work on together.
Wow, that sounds like you can achieve quite a lot with 1 day's worth of workshop time and really make a huge change in how teams relate to each other and how a company works. That's fantastic. Are there any conditions that teams have to meet before it even makes sense to work together with you?
Conditions, like prerequisites, you mean?
Yes,
like,
for example, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that the first thing that I always ask for is that we meet up. It's not, you know, there's no obligations attached to it, but it's just an opportunity to meet up and see if to hear what's going on for them. They can ask questions, and that way we can see whether coaching is the right fit for them. And then there's an assessment process before we actually meet on the day for the workshops. So yeah.
Well, can you tell us a bit more about the assessment and what that means?
Sure. So if it's a really large team, like if we're talking, I don't know, 100 people, then it will probably be some kind of survey that's done, that's sent to everybody. If it's a smaller team, it could be phone interviews. Yeah, but basically either some kind of written assessment, phone interviews, or both, depending on time, depending on budget. Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, it sounds like the work you do on the day is really tailored to the company you're working with and not really a cookie cutter type approach. Sounds like you really want to get to know the company and the people in the teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we would be designing with HR. We'd be looking at, you know, what they're wanting exactly, and we'd be collaborating on creating it together.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds really interesting, and I'm so glad to have you part of my network with you know, the ability to bring those kinds of skills into projects, especially larger projects where quite a lot is at stake and there's quite a lot of people involved in it. If you are in the middle of some kind of change management initiative, such as the GDPR or some other communications change, and you do need support, we can help at From Scratch. Do contact us for a non-obligation chat, like, for example, the one that Dorit's just outlined, and we can find out if we're a good fit. You can find us at from-scratch.net and book a chat right there.